Okay, so this book report is going to be about the book Native Son. It's about this younger black dude about how he kills this woman, and then he just like ends up getting messed up in the head after that. It's like not it's like realistic, and it's not funny, but it is funny at the same time. At least to me. So what happens? So okay, we're gonna start from the beginning. So at the beginning of the book, the dude's name is Bigger, and Bigger is with some of his friends, and they're like, "Hey, let's go rob." And Bigger's like, "Hey, let's go rob this white dude store, right?" And then his friends are like, nah, the police will actually might catch us because of that. But we can rob black people, but not the white people, because the police will catch us if we rob the white people, right?" So then they end up getting into a little scuffle, and they're like, nah, blah, blah, blah. So they end up not being friends with him anymore. So he was like, now I gotta go. It's my house, right? So he went back to his house, and his mom's like, Bigger, you need to go get a job, because we're poor, and it's my last 25 cents, right? So Bigger grabs 25 cents, walks out the door, buys, like, a newspaper or something else, and then ends up going to the place where he needs to get a job at, right? And he like meets people. He ends up getting the job. It's like I mean they make him like $25 a week or whatever. And he was like, wow, that's like a lot of money. I can do this. And it's kind of weird to me at least because the people that Bigger wants to go work for, the Daltons, are like super rich, and the white people, and like the dude, the Mr. Dalton, he owns part of the company that Bigger pays the rent to. Like the people that his landlord, they own part of like that building, I guess, that Bigger lives in, or like the company that owns the building, you know. So like, basically, Bigger pays rent indirectly to Mr. Dalton, right? And the rent prices there are super super high for Bigger and his family because there's this line that goes through town, and like the black people have to stay on one side, the white people get to stay on the other side, and like all the black people, there's like a bunch of them, right? So the prices for the places like for the black people to stay are super high, while the white people's prices are lower because they have more of the city, and they have like so it's like they have more parts of the city, which means they can spread out more, and so it's not they don't need as many like there's not as many people either, so it's easier. It's not as expensive there because not as high demand than the black side of town, and so they're going, and he's working there for a couple weeks, and then one day, this communist dude is like, "Hey, the Miss Dalton, Mary Dalton, as the lady, one of the daughter of Mr. Dalton, and she's like, "Hey, can you like take me to university, right?" And on the way there, she's like, "Hey, can you like take me to this communist dude's house?" He's like, I think your dad might not be too happy about that." He's like, nah, he's cool with it. So they end up going, and then this dude named Jan comes out, right? And he's a communist dude. He's like, everyone should be scared of communism, because communism's cool, right? Because that's totally how he speaks. And so they're like they went to this place, and they're driving around, Bigger's driving them around because he's the chauffeur. And he's like, so like, don't you just love, and Jan's like, don't you just like love communism? Like, with communism, black people and white people are like together. Isn't that like totally radical, dude? And then Bigger's like, I guess. Like, I'm kind of chilling where I'm at. I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of cool, you know, chill. And then he's like, nah, let's go eat, because I love your people. And Bigger's like, like in his head, because it has like a little place where it says, what does he mean by that? In his head, like on the little section. I thought that was funny, because it was kind of like, who's my people? And he's like, black people. And then Bigger was like, okay. Right? And so they go to eat out of this place. And Bigger is like, he doesn't even want to go in with them. He just wants to sit by the car. And like, no, come eat with us. Come eat with us. If you don't come eat with us, we're just going to keep driving around, right? So he's like, fine. And he goes and eats with them. He just sits down. Doesn't even order anything. Just is sitting there. And then they're talking. They buy some, I think it was like rum or something. And they started drinking. Then they hop back in the car. And they're like, hey, Bigger, come sit in the front seat with us, and we'll drive, and then Jan will drive, and we'll all just be sitting in the front seat, because we're all united with communism, right, guys? Communism is cool, right? And this is in the 1930s, by the way, just for information. And so they're just driving around. They go to this park thing, and they drive around. And then Mary and Jan hop in the back, and they're just kissing and stuff, right? While Bigger's driving. And they keep driving. And then they go drop Jan off at his house, right? Because at his communist place, I don't even know. They say, like, near an abandoned building. I don't know. And so they go there, and then, like, Mary Dalton is, like, passed out. She's, like, can't, like, talk. She's, like, right in the back seat. So she's like, Bigger's like, I gotta carry this lady up, but I kind of don't want to. Because if her parents catch me, I might get accused of raping her. Oh, no. I wonder where that came from. Wow. Not like that's gonna happen, like, later. Might be accused of something, whatever, right? So, he ends up carrying her upstairs, and it's like, okay, put her in her bed, right? And she's, like, talking, and she's like, so then Bigger hears, like, steps coming up the stairs. And, like, the Mary Dalton's like, Bigger, right? Kind of saying his name. So, like, oh, no, they're gonna think I'm raping her, right? So then he gets a pillow and just goes, right on her head, or her mouth, so she can't talk. And then Miss Dalton walks up and is like, Mary? Because she's blind, so she can't say anything. She's like, Mary? Are you okay? And then she walks over to the bed and is like, Mary? And then touches her head, and she's like, okay, we're cool. And then leaves, right? And Mary had completely stopped, right? Like, nothing, no sound. And then Bigger does a pillow, no sound. He's like, that's weird. What? So then he's like, let me check her pulse. And then, yeah, she's dead. He suffocated her on accident. So now he's like, oh, that's great. Now I have to hide this dead body that I just killed. Right? So then he's like, okay, where can I do this? He's like, perfect idea. In the fireplace. Yeah, the fireplace. So then he drags her downstairs, right? And tries to put her in the fireplace. Just shoves her in there. And everything fit except her head. So he's like, not gonna cut off her head. Goes, cuts off her head and then puts it in the fireplace, right? And he's like, oh no. Like, throws everything I used to kill her, like, throws it all away. Like, washes the knife. Like, he's like, oh no. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, oh my god. Like, oh my. Like, what's gonna happen? Right? And he goes to bed. Wakes up the next day, checks the fireplace, just make sure all of his evidence is gone. Nothing's there. He's like, okay, we good. We chilling, right? So, he's like, okay, we're good. Like, we just gotta play this normally. Like, you just, like, don't tell anyone. Like, so he ends up leaving, right, and goes and talks to this girlfriend named Bessie. And he's like, Bessie, like, I just killed this woman, and, like, we should, like, no, he didn't say he killed her. He was like, hey, Betsy, like, the Dalton girl, like, she's not there anymore. Like, we should try to fake it like we kidnapped her for a kidnap note, so we can get a bunch of money and we can just dip out of town, right? She's like, I don't know, man. How do you know she's completely gone? Mm-hmm. And he's like, nah, the communist, like, she won't come around. Like she probably went somewhere or something. Like, she won't come back. And then Bessie's like, Bigger? Why isn't she gonna come back? She's like, nah, like, the communist dude, like, took her somewhere, yeah, or something like that, yeah. Like, we should do this, though, right? And she's like, nah, I think I'm good. I'm not trying to get caught up in that, right? And then basically ends up forcing her to help him. And then he ends up writing the note, the kidnap note, with his other hand, with his left hand, so they don't know it's his right hand, right? Because they, like, back in 1930s, they thought that black people were stupid and that don't know how to write with two hands. So they're like, they totally won't question me if I use my left hand. They'll try to use my right hand to figure out if I did it, right? So he ends up using his left hand, and he, like, stays there. Like, he goes, delivers the note, puts it in the mailbox, and leaves, right? So then they find it, and he's not there. So he comes back and walks in the house like, hey, what's going on? Because this white lady is, like, the secretary dude for him. He was like, oh, well, we got a note that says that we have Mary Dalton hostage and blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, wow! I'm so surprised, because I totally did not do this, right? It's like, oh, well, and they say, like, not to contact the police, and blah, 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 and then, the, I think, the secretary lady is like, yeah, I think they're just gonna pay the money, they're gonna do what the note says, and Bigger's like, yes, 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 right? And then there's this private detective walks in, and Bigger's like, no, 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 and then the dude is like, hey, like, let me see, like, the note, and let me just go ahead and ask around, let me just, like, Bigger, you should go upstairs, and, like, he basically, the private detective dude looks at the note, goes through all Bigger stuff, finds the communist pamphlet, and he's like, black person is a communist, totally, and Bigger's like, nah, the communist dude, the red, because that's what they call communists, he's like, the red gave it to me, I didn't do that, the red did that, the red did everything, right, the red took her, and I don't know what really happened, because they just said, go back inside, and then I went up back inside, because I'm not trying to get, like, disobedient to my master, and so they did something, and I don't know, what happened, and I don't know how the note got there, and I don't know how anything happened, because I'm just a clueless black man in the 1930s, that's how that went, and like, oh, okay, seems like he doesn't know anything, cool, right, and then they keep moving, like, that's crazy, wonder what's happening, so they keep moving, and then one day the private detective comes back and it's like, hey, like, how's it going? Just like, want to check up on some things? Like, tell me anything more you know. It's like, maybe not. And then the secretary lady's like, hey, Bigger, go tend to the fire. And Bigger's like, no, they might think that I did it, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I think I'll just sit here for a little bit. He's like, no, I have to go so it doesn't seem like I'm disrespectful and like I might kill someone. So he goes and tends to the fire for a little bit, but he wants to come back, so he knows, like, if he needs to plan out anything else, right? Because he's, like, really smart. And he's like, okay, like, I'm just going to shift around the fire so it looks like I attended to it. And what he ends up doing is he messed up the fire so that all the smoke and ashes goes everywhere, and everyone's coughing it up. So everyone comes downstairs and, like, looking in the shifter to see, like, if there's anything stuck in there. And they end up fixing it, and they looked in the shifter. And, one of her, like, a bone is there, like, in an earring, right? And it's, like, all black and charred. And, like, I wonder what this is. Isn't that crazy, guys? And then look at it, it's like, hey, like, one of the dudes, because there's, like, 5 guys, detective dudes, and, like, hey, didn't you study anatomy back in college? And, like, oh, yeah, I did. Let me look at it. And then they're like, it looks like a female leg bone. I wonder whose this is. Not like a lady went missing, like, pretty recently. And then Bigger's like, oh no, I gotta dip so they don't think it's me. So then he just dips, like, he's out. Like, Usain Bolt, he's out. And so now they're like, I wonder why the dude left as soon as we thought that someone might have used the furnace to kill him. Oh wait, it was him. Wow. And so now he went back to Betsy's house, like, okay, Betsy, like, we gotta go, because, like, they might be on to me, and I did this, and blah, 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 and then, and then this happened, and then they left. Him and Betsy just dipped, and they went to these abandoned buildings on the black side of town, right, and they're just chilling in there, and then he's like, hey, like, blah, 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 and he's trying to talk it out, and then, things go to things, and they end up having sex, right, which isn't that bad, but then the part is sad, it's kind of funny, actually, right. Bigger realizes, right, that Betsy's not going to go along with his plan to, like, go out of town and get the kidnap money. So he's like, wait a minute, the police are on my tail and this one might not go along with me. So right after that happens, he kills her with a brick. Just, killed her. And then threw her into the air conditioning unit thing. Like, there's like a little, like, space and, like, next to the building, like, where the air conditioning thing is, just threw in there, and then said, alright, I gotta go now. So then he left, just leaves, tries to go, like, gets a paper, steals a paper from the random dude, right, goes into another building, right, goes to the very top of it, and sitting on the roof. It's really cold, because it was snowing and stuff, right, so he lights a fire, so he reads the newspaper, and then it's, like, a part where, like, they're looking for him, it's, like, shaded out. And he's in the part that's not shaded out. And there's, like, this much left. out of this much space. He's like, oh no, they're gonna find me. I wonder what I have to do. So then he lights a fire with the newspaper, right? And then just leaves that building, goes to a different building, is looking all over the city for a building, and he's like, oh no, I'm hungry, like, I'm gonna go get some bread from the store. Goes to get the bread, no one recognizes him, leaves, goes to this another, like, apartment building, right? He's in one of the rooms, and he's like, okay, I think it should be good. He gets another paper, right, from the store where he got the bread at. He is in, like, this big of a section, right? Look, he's in this big of a section. This is the only place I haven't checked. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna get caught. There's nowhere else for me to go because they're all around me. And I didn't realize it until I came here that this is the place. Only place I haven't searched yet. This is great. So then he ends up going to the roof because he hears, like, something gets broken down. He hears, like, get on the ground, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh no, the cops are here. That's nice. Right? And he goes to the very roof and he's like, okay, like, what am I gonna do? And cops end up, and he basically assaults the cop with the gun, right? Hit the cop's gun, and then he ends up getting caught. He's like, oh no, my life is over. I'm finna get shot. Oh no, right? And he's just laying on his back, and he's like dragging him on the street, and everyone's like, lynch him. He deserves to die. Blah 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 blah. Sorry, I was thirsty. And he's like, okay, that's fine. I'll be good. So they take him to jail, and he's just sitting there. He's not talking to nobody. Sitting there, just isn't talking, isn't eating. And then one day, Jan comes, and within his attorney, he's like, hey, we can fix this. We got you. Like, we can solve everything. We solve all your problems. He's like, I don't know, man. They think I raped her, and I didn't rape her. And then now they think I raped and killed 2 women, and one of them is white, so now I'm, like, really finna die. Like, nah, now we can fix it. We can fix everything. Just say that you did it. That sign this paper that says that you did everything that we're accusing you of, and I can fix it for you. Right? And he's like, alright, I'll sign it. And he signs it, and then nothing was fixed. And then, basically, he just keeps moving around jails and, like, getting asked questions, doesn't even answer. And he's like, I'm gonna die. Like, they're gonna kill me. Right? Which, foreshadowing. And then he's like, I shouldn't even say anything, because I'm already dead, so there's no point trying to fight it. Like, they're already going to give me the death penalty. And they go to this, like, hearing, I guess, and they're like, hey, it's like, this is what you're getting accused of, blah, 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 blah. Like, is there anything that you, like, what are you pleading, blah, 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 right? And Mr. Max's attorney and Jan's attorney's like, no, blah, 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 right? And they're always asking, like, these questions, like, hey, like, are you associated with communism? Like, did the communists do it? Because if the communists do it, we'll believe you. And we totally won't say that you're affiliated with communists. And that might or may not make your sentencing worse. He's like, nah, the communists didn't have anything to do with it. It was just me. Like, are you sure if you blame communism, we totally won't kill you and light you on fire? He was like, nah, it was just me. The communists didn't do anything about it, to be honest. I like, lied about all that. Because I knew y'all blamed it on the communists, not me. Because I'm just a dumb black man. And like, oh, wow. That's crazy. Are you sure, though, the communists didn't have anything to do with it? And he's like, nah. So, like, okay. And then he goes to trial. And they're like, you could be facing either the death penalty, your natural life in the penitentiary, or upwards of 14 years in jail. Are you okay with that? And he was like, yeah, I'm finna die. So then, that was the day before. He goes back to jail, comes back out, and he's in the trial. And he was like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. And it was. He ends up getting sentenced to life. I mean, no. He ends up getting the death penalty. Because the other attorney was just like, he's insane! And then Max was like, he's not insane. Like, there's a bunch of people that say he was regularly insane. I mean, not insane. He was sane. He was just like a bad kid, and that made bad decisions sometimes. And they're like, oh wow, that's crazy. He should still die though. So basically the whole jury was already kind of like gonna vote. They didn't really care what the judges said, or like the lawyers or the defendant said. They didn't really care about that. They were just like, hey, we're gonna all say, we're just gonna be biased and say that he did it and that he's like should die. And then that's kind of what happened. And he talks to Max one more time. He's like, Like, is it gonna be like how I said? Because I said that I didn't really want to kill her at first, and then I ended up killing her. And then, like, I said that I hated her, but I really didn't want to do it. Is that how these people that kill me, is that kind of how they're gonna feel? Because I'm just gonna die. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, just be happy with what you're doing. Like, they could have lynched you, blah blah blah. And he's like, I'm gonna die. And like the last 30 pages, like every page, he's like, I'm gonna die. And he's like, just kind of saying that, realizing that, and he's like, oh no, I'm gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So they never really tell us how big or like they killed him because he got death. He got the death penalty, and so the story kind of ends on Mr. Max. He just leaves, and Bigger's just looking at him leave, and then the book ends like, Mr. Max left, and as he left, he could hear the sound of metal on metal, blah 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 blah. And Bigger was just holding onto the bars, looking out as Mr. Max left. That's it. That's the end of the book. And me personally, I think it was a really good book, and it kind of reminds me of The Outsiders, another book that I did a while ago. But it kind of just reminds me of how they kind of just think everything's set and fixed, which kind of is, but I liked the book. It was a good book. Yeah, that was my kind of summarized version of Native Son. It was really good. I actually recommend the book. It's kind of adult though, so besides that, it was good. I would say, I mean, I'm 13 and I'm reading it, but I'm kind of like an advanced reader, I guess. That's so. I mean, I would just say like 14 or 15 and up, because it's like really bad in some places. Like a lot of curse words, a lot of racial slurs. Some other bad stuff happens, but besides that, it was a really good book. Yeah, that was my summary.